Okay, afternoon. In today's video we're going to be looking at tree diagrams, but before we go into tree diagrams, let's remind ourselves of some of the basics of probability. Okay, so the probability of all possible outcomes will always add to 1. So, for example, if we have the probability of rolling a 1, a 2, a 3, a 4, a 5 or a 6 on a standard dice, then the probabilities will add up in total to 1. Yeah, that makes sense. The probability of an event happening is the number of ways it can happen divided by the total number of outcomes. So for example, if we're looking at the probability that we roll an odd number on a standard dice would be, well, the number of ways we can roll an odd number. We can roll a 1, a 3 or a 5, so there are 3 ways we can roll an odd number divided by the total number of outcomes, 6 numbers, so it's 3 divided by 6, so we have half a chance of rolling an odd number on a standard dice. Tree diagrams. Okay, let's look at this question first. So tree diagrams are useful to visualize probabilities. So I have a bag of beads with 3 red beads and 5 blue beads. Okay, so I pick out a bead, replace it, and pick out a second bead. Okay, so in this question we are going to want to just have draw a tree diagram to represent this situation. Okay. This is the start. So if we look at event 1, we have 2 possible branches under event 1. Event 1 will be the first pick. Okay. So in the first pick there are 2 possible options. The first option is that when we pick out a bead in the first instance we get a red bead. The second option is that we pick a blue bead. So those branches represent the possible outcomes after the first pick. Just on those lines, we're going to write down the probabilities. So what is the probability of picking a red bead for the first pick? So you should write that just on the branch that follows the red line. So write that now. Well, if you think about it, there are 3 red beads we could pick from, 8 beads in total, so the probability is 3/8. Probability of picking a blue bead, well, there are 5 blue beads, 8 in total, so the probability of picking a blue bead is 5/8. Okay, next we're going to look at the event 2, which is going to be the second pick. So we look at what would have happened if we'd picked red first. So if we'd picked red first, what could happen next? Well, we could have picked red a second time, or on the second pick we could have picked blue. Okay, so what is the probability that we pick red on the second go? Well, don't forget it says that we replaced the bead. So in the bag there are still 8 beads and 3 of them are red. So the probability that we pick a red on the second go is 3/8. The probability we pick a blue on the second go is 5/8. Okay, so this branch here represents going red and then red again. This branch here, if I use a different colour, will represent going red and then picking blue on the second go. Next, we might look at what happens if we had picked blue on the first go. What could happen on the second go? Well, we could have picked red on the second go and then blue on the second go. If for red on the second go, there are still 8 beads in the bag and 3 of them are red. For blue on the second go, there are 8 beads in the bag and 5 of them are red. Okay. So let's look at what this top branch represents. This top branch represents the probability of getting red and then red again. We will say the probability of getting red and then red again is going to be 3/8 times by 3/8. That 3/8 came from the first 3/8 and the second one came from this 3/8. 3/8 times by 3/8. If you do that, you get 9/64. The second branch here is the probability that we get red and then blue. This is equal to 3/8 times by 5/8. Multiplying gives you 15/64. Okay. This one here, this represents the probability of getting blue and then red. This is 5/8 times by 3/8, or 15/64. And the one at the bottom here, probability of getting blue then blue, is 5/8 times by another 5/8. This ends up being 25/64. Okay, that bottom one came from doing the first blue and the second blue and multiplying them together. Okay, let's think about what we've done there. So the important thing we did was to multiply along branches. So if you're following a path, you're going to multiply along the branches. Okay. Interesting to notice as well, the first statement under basics of probability. The probability of all outcomes will sum to 1. Okay, so we have represented all the possible outcomes after 2 picks. The probability of getting red then red, the probability that we got a red bead and then a blue bead, the probability that we got a blue bead and then a red bead, and finally the probability we got a blue bead and a blue bead. These are all the possible outcomes. So if we were to add all of these outcomes up, they should add up to 1. We can check that. So the probability of red then red plus the probability of red blue plus the probability of blue red plus the probability of blue blue is 9/64 plus 15/64 plus 15/64 plus 25/64. This indeed adds up to 64/64. Okay, so we've listed all the outcomes. We might answer a quick question now. So using our tree diagram, we could answer the question, what is the probability of getting 2 different coloured beads with 2 picks? What is the probability of getting 2 different coloured beads with 2 picks? Well, the outcomes we're looking at are the probability we got a red and then a blue, or the probability we got blue and then a red. Okay? The probability of red then blue was 15/64, and the probability of blue then red was also 15/64. So in total, the probability getting 2 different coloured beads with 2 picks is 30/64. Okay, if you wanted, you could simplify this fraction to 15/32. Okay, I'm going to leave this video here, and I would like you to watch the next video to fill out the back page of your notes as well.